Welcome everybody, and welcome to the second of our monthly Dacxi Chain updates for 2024. I'm going to go through, like last month, just a small number of slides to give you a quick status update on a few things. And there's a few points in particular I want to draw out and share a little bit of detail with you. And at the conclusion of all of that, I've got some questions here which have come through, which I'm going to answer after the presentation. So look, all up, it shouldn't eat into your morning or your evening too much. So just a really quick recap. I think last month I sort of dived straight into the, this is what we're doing and we're building the network and everything. So I just thought it might be worth maybe every second meeting going back and just reminding people about the very important context. So equity crowdfunding today is a hugely underdeveloped opportunity generally. And that's a consistent theme across all international markets where equity crowdfunding is a small but growing industry. And what's interesting about that is it has the potential to become a $500 billion a year industry. So if we look at the number of people in the world that are investing or have money to invest, we look at that sort of on average, we know that there's $500 billion or more a year, US dollars a year, that's available for investing in things that may not just be shares, from public companies and more traditional asset classes such as this. And so we look at this and we think this is a massive unrealized market, okay? And there's no better way to crystallize that than when we look at the actual size of equity crowdfunding as an industry today. It represents around about $1 billion a year of investment in total globally. And that's actually less than 1% of the round about $200 billion a year that gets invested into early stage innovation focused companies. So by any measure, equity crowdfunding is underperforming, despite the fact that it has this almost limitless potential. And, the central themes around why it hasn't realized that limitless potential are things that many of you will have heard me talk about before. So there are quite strict rules around equity crowdfunding, and all of those rules are local to each market or country, or what we call jurisdiction. Those regulations vary from market to market, so they're not all the same in each market. Some of them are similar, some of them are very similar, and some of them are quite different. The platforms and the deals, therefore, as a byproduct of local regulations, these are also local to each market. And so essentially the equity crowdfunding industry today is a series of small local markets, okay, where local platforms are offering local deals to local investors. And that's a very big part. That is the primary underlying limitation of equity crowdfunding today, which is why it's not participating to a far greater extent as a contributor to the funding of innovation and growth companies. And so Daxi Chain is all about saying, well, what about if we could create technology that transformed equity crowdfunding into a global and borderless industry, okay, where all of these different platforms that are operating locally were connected into a network and they could operate across borders. What's required to do this is a purpose-designed technology infrastructure that allows equity crowdfunding platforms to operate together as a network, where they share deals with each other to expose thousands more investment opportunities to millions more investors, okay? And the scale that this achieves, a global equity crowdfunding network, the scale that it achieves transforms how innovation is funded. And it does it really on a permanent basis, okay? So it just simply means there's more deals for investors to invest in. There's more companies using equity crowdfunding to raise capital. There's more capital being invested, but also deals are being fulfilled faster. And more importantly, more innovation is being funded. So really, by any yardstick, transformational, this concept of a borderless global network or ecosystem of equity crowdfunding platforms. Sorry, it's not, okay. I had a glitch there. And so that brings us to Dacxi Chain, which is the world's first global equity crowdfunding network. Okay, and I think to this point, most of you are familiar with some of these themes. So where are we today? Well, look, we've really made some very significant progress. We've built and released a purpose-designed technology platform. I can assure you that was anything but trivial. That is an ongoing task, not just for the next weeks and months, but we will always be looking to enhance and refine that platform. We've built and released what are known as APIs, which are just simply technology connectors that allow equity crowdfunding platforms to partner with us and to integrate with each other or to connect with each other through this technology infrastructure. We've signed our first equity crowdfunding partners, and we've completed our first API partner integration. Okay, so the work that's happening now is the following. We're now building the network. So recruiting more platforms to join what is still a foundational group where we can work together very closely, in particular, collaborating with the partners to manage cross-border regulations. Now, I'm going to expand on this in this presentation a little bit. It's an important part of the work that's going on right now that I think people do need to understand. But this is about building the network of foundational participants so that we can collaborate really very closely with them on some of the detail of what they need the platform to do. And that's particularly around making sure we can harmonize a single deal, harmonize across different jurisdictions that have slightly different rules. Okay. The work then begins to execute the first deals via the network. And from there, we're really looking to scale the network, scale the deal flow. And because of that, we're scaling the business. Okay. So this is a slide that I shared last time. I'll just quickly go through it again. Building the network really is key to success. And there's some very important reasons for that, apart from sort of the obvious. But particularly in these early stages, every new partner that we start to work with and collaborate with, they validate the whole Daxi Chain business concept and the market opportunity. Okay, they simply would not be collaborating with us or partnering with us unless they believed in what we're doing. That also creates reasons for other partners to get involved as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides from now. New partners contribute new knowledge. They contribute their own experiences, which are specific to their own markets. So as we accumulate more partners, as we collaborate with more partners, the richness of our understanding of equity crowdfunding in different jurisdictions grows exponentially. So that's incredibly valuable. And then, of course, we leverage all of their knowledge and experience to make sure that our platform ticks all the boxes. And ultimately, this accelerates our execution. Okay, so building the network, very important. I shared this slide with you again last time. I talked about the three stages of building a network. So they don't necessarily correlate to annual milestones around the number of partners that we're targeting, but they correlate more to stages on the journey where we have a tipping point. We then evolve that into a critical mass that creates a viable ecosystem that's standing on its own 2 feet, producing revenue and producing profits. And then we get to a stage of accelerated growth. And so really another way to think about this is the growth in the network itself, is you end up with a trajectory as a result of that on the actual number of deals that flow through the network that's much more exponential. It's a much steeper growth trajectory. And that's because of this network effect that we start to get as we accumulate more partners over time. Okay. And I think the effect of that is somewhat self-explanatory or obvious. That network effect vastly accelerates the number of deals that are available through the network, the number of investors that have access to those deals, because as we partner with more platforms, they bring their own crowds. So there's more investors that can participate. And the corollary of that is the amount of capital that is invested also vastly accelerates through that network effect. Okay, so I just want to make the point, as we build the network, we get to a certain point where it will start to drive the deal flow growth, and the growth in deal flow will be much more exponential than the growth in the number of partners that are participating. Okay. I talked last time about this tipping point milestone and how focused we were on achieving that tipping point. I talked about what that does for us is it allows us to really announce to the industry, the global industry, that we are Dacxi Chain and we've built the world's first global equity crowdfunding network. We're open for business, and this is the direction of travel. Okay, so that big, very confident announcement to the industry is what we get to as a result of that tipping point. I also talked about the fact that based on the partners that we had signed, but also more importantly, based on the quality and the number of partner discussions that we're now having, that we expected that tipping point would arrive earlier than we first anticipated. And so let me give everyone an update on that right now. So as of this month, February 2024, you're aware we already have partners in jurisdictions that include Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Okay. We have ongoing discussions with additional partners in multiple regions around the world. So that includes Europe, which of course now under a single regulatory framework comprises 27 individual countries, markets, or markets in that single jurisdiction. Partner candidates with ongoing discussions also in the UK, in Australia and New Zealand, in Brazil, in Singapore and Malaysia. Okay, so I think what's important here is the geographical coverage is really quite significant. We're talking about diverse markets that operate in quite different ways. But the reason they are in discussions with us, and in fact, they're doing a lot more than that, they're actively contributing to our dialogue around things that we need to do to get into position for first deals to flow. The reason that they're doing that is because they see it and they want us to succeed. Okay, and this is a very, very important milestone that we've reached in the last few weeks, is that we now realize we have enough support and enough collaboration from all sorts of companies in different parts of the world that we have what we need to succeed. And I'm going to talk about what that means in the more immediate future in a moment, okay? Many of these companies are the leaders in their markets, the number one players, not all of them. Some of them operate in larger markets where we've deliberately targeted those that sort of sit in that middle tier, but others are market leaders. They're all engaging with us very enthusiastically, okay? So what I mean by that is I am having regular one-on-one discussions with all of these CEOs about what we're doing and about what we need from them. And they're all saying to me, tell me what you need. How do I contribute? Because I really want this to happen, okay? So the answer to that, of course, I'm always hoping they ask that question because I have the answer ready. The answer is we want you to come in and sit in on a regular forum with other CEOs where we are talking about real live operational scenarios where deals are being shared from one market to another. This is the data that's going to be shared. Is there anything that's missing? How do we get it if it is missing? In what way does it need to be shared if it is missing? When does it need to be shared? Are there any permissions around that on either side? all of this detail is being mowed through by us in collaboration with these partners. Okay, so as we sit here today, in the last few weeks, we haven't signed more partners, but it is absolutely imminent. We will announce some more partners very soon, and we have not only expanded the number of partners that we're talking to, but some of those partners have come to us because they've been introduced by the partners we already have. Okay, they've turned around and said, "Hey, listen, there's another equity crowdfunding company I know. They would love this. I know the CEO. I'm going to introduce you." And so we've now got this bit of a network effect of our own happening through the partners that we've already started to engage with. So that is enormously exciting when we're experiencing that on a weekly basis. The other thing that's starting to happen that is potentially even more exciting is that we're getting a really strong response from some of the equity crowdfunding associations. So these are industry associations that work across, in some cases, multiple countries or jurisdictions. They have membership of dozens and dozens and dozens of equity crowdfunding platforms. And they are saying, "We really love this. We want to take this to our members. Will you let us advertise what you're doing to our members and invite them to get involved?" And of course, the answer to that is, well, yes, we would be grateful for that support. So that is just starting to happen now. And again, the quality of those discussions and engagements with those industry bodies is really, it's quite compelling and hugely encouraging. I think I've already covered the rest of the points on this slide. I think the one thing that for me is most notable is that the companies that we've talked to and that we're now working with, they're all saying, "How do we do this?" It only takes 15 minutes for them to say, "You know what? We want this to happen." And then the conversation quickly turns to, well, what's our role? What do you need us to do? How do we participate? And this is where we're seeing this enriched discussion around a lot of those details I described earlier, which are absolutely critical to that first wave of deals. Okay, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. So look, it's more of the same, but with some important differences: more engagement, more partners, more partner candidates, industry associations that have many members who want to get directly involved, and they all want this to be a huge success. So what does all of that ultimately mean? Well, I think if I had to summarize this in a couple of points, it means both the quality and also the geographical coverage of our industry collaborations, that's building rapidly. Okay, it's really building a lot more in February than it was in January. It also means that we actually know that we have access to the level of support and cooperation we need for Daxi Chain to succeed. Okay, because the industry really wants this to happen. And I might add another point. A lot of these partners are saying, "Look, this is a great concept and we thought about this, but we can't do it. We need an independent technology company that's not a crowdfunding platform themselves. We need them to come in and drive this." And so that's a big part of their enthusiasm is, you know, a short time into that first discussion, they can see that we've thought about a lot of the complexities. They can see we've already got a platform, and the fact that we're an independent technology company is a huge advantage versus the industry trying to do it for themselves. Okay, so we know we have that level of access and cooperation that we need to be successful, and so we are now ready to announce Daxi Chain to the global equity crowdfunding industry. Okay, so this is quite a significant development. Some of you may have seen my short video update over the last week. So the first thing that we, major sort of announcement we wanted to share on this webinar is that we will make the global announcement of Daxi Chain to the global equity crowdfunding industry, we'll do that in the current quarter. So that's the quarter that ends March 31. Okay. So you'll obviously be seeing and hearing a lot more from us in relation to that as we get closer to and as we make that global industry announcement. The second decision that we've made as a result of all of this collaboration that we're getting from the industry is we've realized we actually now have enough support and momentum that we can go back and reapply for a tier 1 exchange listing for Daxi Coin. And the reason we can do that is because the names that we can reference, the quality of those engagements, the level of detail and the level of communication, we can point to all of that as clear, unambiguous evidence of the progress of Daxi Chain. And I think that's genuinely compelling. So we are already starting to pull together what we need, which is considerable, to reapply for a tier 1 exchange listing. Okay. What we have to present in that application is materially different to when we did this some time ago. Materially different. Okay. We have some really strong evidence of industry participation and momentum, which changes everything. Okay. So if we think about those two announcements that I'm making today on this webinar, and just think about what that means, what we get out of that. So first of all, the global industry announcement, that really will accelerate the growth of the network, okay? It expands the industry's awareness of Daxi Chain, and it will bring us new partners from around the world. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that it will achieve that. And even if we're still approaching partners ourselves, there's a much better chance that they will know who we are and what we're doing, and they'll have read up on it, and the quality of that conversation is immediately enriched, okay? So that global announcement really accelerates the growth of the network. The tier 1 listing of Daxi Coin, of course, that's something that we've all wanted for a very long time, and we now believe we're in a much stronger position to achieve. And that drives coin liquidity, that tier 1 listing. And ultimately that drives Daxi Coin demand. And what that means is we'll start to realize the true value of Daxi Coin, okay? Just so you understand, with a tier 1 listing application, they don't ring you up for a chat. It's an entirely remote process. So you compile vast amounts of information and evidence, and you submit that in a very structured application process. And then you either hear from them or you don't. You only hear from them if the answer is yes. Okay. If you don't hear from them, it means the answer is no, but they just don't tell you that. That's the way it works. It's the same for everybody. So I just wanted to help you understand that reapplying is the best way for us to get that tier 1 listing. There's no point in us going back and saying, oh, look, we'd like you to dust off our previous application because there's all this new exciting news that we need to share with you. Okay, reapplying is absolutely the right way to do it, and that application will be materially different than it was last time. So these are the benefits that we extract from these two developments that we're announcing today. Okay, so look, in summary, network growth is still absolutely key to success. We will make announcements shortly around foundation partners who have signed on, but the group of platforms who are now actively contributing to our collaboration has grown significantly in the last few weeks. The quality of our industry level collaboration is also improving, and that's really this industry association connection that I talked about earlier. That's a great way for us to get in front of 50 or more platforms through one relationship and to amplify the benefits of what we're doing. And so we have enough momentum. It's very clear to us. We now have enough momentum that we want to step up the entire rollout. And that stepping up means we announce to the world the creation of the world's first global equity crowdfunding network. And we announce that to the industry. and we reapply for a tier 1 listing of Daxi Coin. Okay, so that's the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to some questions that were sent through. And look, please, some of these questions are very good. We encourage you to send through your questions. I'm also responding to certain questions that we can't necessarily cover in this format. You know, if we think there's detail that is worth sharing. So please keep those questions coming in. We do endeavour to respond to as many as we can. The first question is, do you have any support solutions for the coin price? Look, I don't think it's exactly a stunning insight to say that the current coin price is in no way reflective of the value and potential of Daxi Chain. Okay, so that's disappointing for all of us. The two things I've announced today are probably the two most significant developments to drive the value of Daxi Coin that we've seen in the last 6 to 12 months. Okay, so I want to be clear about that. The most significant developments in relation to supporting the price of the coin. We all want to see the price improve, and making a global industry announcement about the formation of the Daxi Chain global network and really creating some buzz and noise around that, I think can only have a positive effect. And then obviously the tier 1 listing, being able to go forward with a much stronger application. We can achieve that tier 1 listing. That is a material shift in the level of liquidity in the coin, and that will ultimately drive demand in a very significant way, we believe. So the two things I've announced today actually are the two most significant things in the last 6 to 12 months in relation to, other than the launch of the platform, the most significant things to drive the, and so we can start to see the true value of the coin reflected in the price. Okay. I've got another question here. When we planned to do the first deal late last year through the network, we wanted to learn about the mechanics of how the network and the technology would work. And so where are we in relation to all of that today? So that really touches on a point that I covered a little bit earlier. So just for those, and I think everybody's aware of this, there's certainly been lots of announcements late last year. Our intention was that the first deal to go through the network was actually going to be for Daxi Chain itself, okay? And then we became aware of a conflict of interest for the platform that we contract with as the company raising the money, a conflict of interest where they were essentially being remunerated and at the same time also partnering with us. And so that became, from a regulatory perspective, quite complicated. So what we decided in the end was we're just going to proceed. We're not going to try and wade through a million different ways that we could do that, and just focus on getting more partners and getting into position for that first wave of deals. So the collaboration that I've described that we're going through at the moment, and this is consuming the vast majority of my week at crazy hours, right? Because a lot of these companies are not in Australian time zones. In fact, almost all of them. So a lot of my work at the moment is working really closely with these companies, building relationships and working through the detail of these mechanics. Some of the mechanics that we would have been able to uncover if the first deal, which was for Daxi Chain, proceeded as we intended late last year. But that's okay. We decided it's not going to hold us up. That was absolutely the right decision. And we're now working through those mechanics, those same mechanics, as I described earlier, with all of the partners that we have around the table who are collaborating. So hopefully that helps answer that question. So look, I'll take one final question here, and I'm trying to take sort of the really good headline questions. This question is, I know you can't give specific dates, but can you give us some idea of when, you know, the first deals will start to come through the network? The answer to this is we don't know. I can't give you a specific time frame. What I can tell you though is that next to building the network, this is the single most important thing in the organization today. And I can tell you that we are traveling much faster towards being ready for that first wave of deals than we were in January through all of that collaboration I've described. So all of this detail is being knocked over. One by one, we're knocking them over, and we'll keep going till it's done. I can't give a specific time frame, but when we're in a position to, so let me be really clear, time frame, we will. That's the issue, is that we can't give a time frame unless it's accurate. We can't give an accurate time frame right now, but we will be able to do that very soon. Okay. In the meantime, we're really looking forward to telling the world what we're doing with that global announcement. And we think that that will also, you know, drive some great support, not just for Daxi Chain as a growing network, but also for Daxi Coin. And I think that's it. So I've waited, let me think, did I cover everything here? I've waded through the slides, given everyone the update. I've answered some of the headline questions. Please keep those coming in. It is really great to see those questions and just the level of engagement that comes through when we read those questions. And, you know, I very much look forward to providing another update for you in a few weeks' time. And in the meantime, if there are any significant developments, I think we'll continue to provide these sort of short, sharp video updates. We've had developments from time to time. We'll look to make short, sharp updates across the community. But otherwise, all of the major developments and any detail, whether that's for Daxi Chain or the industry generally, we'll continue to cover that in these monthly webinar updates. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Fantastic to see everybody here. There will be a recording of the webinar, which will be sent out. So if there's anyone that you know wanted to be here and couldn't join, they'll be able to view the recording at their leisure. Okay. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening, and look forward to talking to you soon.